There we go. Hey, it's Saturday. Shaggy SoCal. A-E-I-O-U. Hey, it's Shaggy SoCal 12 for Forza, and time for the next round of track guides for this current season. We're season 44 now for Thursday Night Thunder, continuing in the Ford Falcon XB. Um, for the upcoming tracks this week, it's going to be Catalunya National, which we'll do here, and then I'll probably pop back on a little bit later and do the track guide for Silverstone GP. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of get started again. Same format as I always do. I'm going to go out, run a couple hot laps, kind of talk about what, at a quick level of what I'm doing. If you want the quick version, then I'll do the quote unquote track walk, which is then doing a slow lap, going corner by corner, things I'm seeing, things I'm looking for, what I think the car is doing, what I'm trying to do maybe to counteract or work with what the car is going to give me. And then I'm going to do a mock race for what I believe is the race length that we're going to face with some traffic. Again, gives me practice of not only just, it's one thing to hot lap, but it's another thing to actually have other cars out there to try and figure out like where are passing opportunities, what I might run into during the race, even though they're not going to run exactly like what will like the rest of you, since we're all in the same car. So with that, pardon me, let's just go ahead and get into test drive. And let's just run a couple of laps. So heading down the front straightaway. We'll be up in, I'm probably not going to get to fourth gear here, but maybe I'll put it in fourth just for sake of shifting. I'm going to be looking for the corner worker stand here on the left side, braking just as I get to it, down to second gear. Of course, I'll be coming in here with a lot more speed. Going to hug the inside, watch the wheels spin as you crest over that hill there. Out, just ease off the throttle. Going to eat a lot of curb here. I'm going to eat a lot of curb here. Up to third gear, heading up the hill. Ease off the throttle, cresting the hill. Once you get to the apex, roll back in. Quick check brake to get it into the chicane. And I say check, it's a brush, may even be a cadence. I don't even know if the car's braking here. Down to second gear, actually down to second or first. I'm still trying to figure that one out. Up second gear, beat the curbing there, ease off the throttle, maybe a little bit of a brake, hug the inside, look for the extra curb, look for the course condition light, roll back into the throttle, still second gear, down, quick brake, eat the curbs there, spot the entrance to the chicane as soon as you can, eat the curb there, eating a lot of curbs on this lap. Second gear, shift, up to third, out onto the front stretch. All right, we're going to do a flyer here, and I'll try and talk through it again, but now you're going to kind of see what it is at speed. So again, looking for the shock on the left side there, down to second gear, looking at the apex, hug the inside, watch the wheel spin transitioning back onto the main circuit, like that, ease off the throttle, use a lot of this inside curve. That's a little too much inside curve. Up to third, ease off the throttle as you get to the edge of the curbing. You can start rolling back in once you get to the apex. Little quick cadence brake just to get a little weight in the front tires. You don't want the back end to step out too much in entry there. Braking just at the end of the tire barrier on the right side, down to first gear. Turn in, you can use a lot of curbing here. Roll back into the throttle, second gear, nice and gentle through here. That barrier won't be there on Thursday. Up, couple turns left, brake right at the end of the curbing. There's a lot of curbing there. Brake, look for the entry to the chicane. And back onto the front stretch. So that is the very quick down and dirty track guide for Catalunya. Let's do the track walk, and let's kind of talk about what I'm seeing here. So again, I'm not familiar enough with Catalunya to know exactly what these are, but I kind of look at these as like this is like corner worker shack or flag stands. So Just as I'm getting to the flag stand, and this is why I always get confused because it's mirrored. I should be pointing that way, but just I'm getting to the flag stand there. That's on the left side. That's where I'm braking for turn one. Again, it's looking. It's kind of as I always do. It's the braking line is nice. It's a great reference point, but it does lie to you because depending on the car, depending on how fast you're traveling, you some cars you can brake a lot later than what the game is going to tell you you should be braking. But so I always try to find, use the braking line as kind of the initial thing of, or figure out where you're braking at, but then try to tie that with something that's a little more static. That way, if you're in traffic, you're drafting somebody, you've got something else to look for when the car in front of you is blocking your visibility to the line. So for here, I'm using the that corner worker shack or the flag stand there on the right side, braking just as I get to it. If you're going to brake as you pass it, that's going to be way too late. I am running the 200 brake pressure tune, um, but again, down to second gear. Uh, at this point, as far as when I'm starting to turn the car in, when I'm releasing the brake, it's really done by feel. I don't have a definitive. I'm letting off when I'm passing this. It's really I'm kind of just judging it of how much braking am I doing, how fast am I coming in. I'm just kind of my brain's kind of doing the computation of have I slowed the car down enough where I can release the brake and turn in and make the corner. But it is a second gear, at least for me, it's a second gear corner. Might be a late enough turn in. You're probably going to come in a little bit wide and then get it to the apex. And I've just been hugging the inside the whole way through. Ultimately, what I'm trying to do is on the exit, this is going to be one of the first areas. Again, we've learned that this car's got a little bit of play in the back end of it. So whether the back end's starting to step out a little bit because of the weight shift left to right, or as we learned at Maple Valley, just sometimes cresting a little bit of a hill just gets the rear end just light enough where the wheels start to spin up, and because we're not running race tires, we're running street tires, the back end's going to step out. So this is one of the first areas. Again, you can kind of see it, the exit kind of you're kind of cresting over the hill as you get back onto the circuit. It's going to get the back end light because you're still going to have a lot of steering in. For me, I'm actually trying to keep the car as much to the right as possible because I'd rather have the car set and nice and level to set me up for the next corner. Won't always happen. I might let it drift out to about mid track and I slowly bring it back, but I'm not going all the way to the left side on exit. But again, because you've got a lot of steering in, as you crest this, you're going to feel the back end step up. Just be wary of it. Um, and again, how you work with the oversteer is up to you. Whether you, as you kind of know where you're going to be cresting it, you might back out of the throttle slightly, just to minimize the chance the tires are going to spin up. You might say, screw it, I'm going to keep full throttle and I'm just going to, flick the steering wheel for counter steer to try and keep the car straight. Hashtag me personally, I'd rather smoother is faster in that sense. So I'll probably lift a little first before I start working with the counter steer. But that's me. So second gear, I'm going to bring the car back over. This one is done by feel as well. It's really don't need to. We're not going to be carrying so much speed where you're going to have to brake. You should just be able to, if you've got it lined up nicely, you should just be able to ease off the throttle, and it might be a full lift out, it might be a partial lift out. It really just depends on that combination of how fast you're going, when you lift, and when you're turning in, what the car is doing. So, um, but again, I don't think you need to brake unless you completely miss the turn in point and the lift point and you're late. But as far as a static reference, or maybe to pay attention to, is a lot of times for me turning in, it's right about where that inside curbing on the left side starts to disappear off the side of my screen. That's a kind of I'm already looking that direction anyway because again, the car's going to go where you look. So I'm getting to this point. I'm already trying to find that apex, so that when I release the throttle or lift off the throttle and start turning in, I've already got that lined up. It's about at this point, and just arcing the car in. And as I said in the track guides, I'm gonna try and abuse this. Catalunya, I'm gonna be abusing a lot of curbs here, and it's risky. But I will think with this car, with the gearing, and it is about maintaining momentum. If I can use the curbing and help straighten out some of these chicanes, you know, that'll that's what I'm gonna try. I also find I'm in my first couple test laps, I'm actually finding it's a lot easier, especially the last chicane is a lot easier with the wheel than it was with the controller. But again, second gear here, so I'm going to use a lot of the inside curving. I'm going to point it straight at the inside curving, as you can kind of see there. And second gear, I'm going to use the inside curving here. And second gear up to third gear. Let the car just kind of naturally come out to the left side on its own. As we head up to, when I've done the full track, I always talk about that Catalunya's got a lot of right-handers that the exit's cresting over a hill, so you don't have a lot of weight in the back. Catalunya, because we're running the national circuit, we're not doing the really, really sharp right-hander here. So, but you can't take it flat, but you don't have to brake. You got to do something in between. So for me, as I'm getting to the end of this curving here, this is about where I'm going to just ease off the throttle. Again, it's by feel. I'm not going to say you have to come all the way out of the throttle. You might come out partially out of the throttle. I think it just depends on that combination of how severely you're turning in. You shouldn't really have to. If you watch what I'm doing with the wheel through here, you're going to see if I get it right, I'm not really doing a lot of steering. But it'll be a lift of the throttle, arc the car in. I'm probably not going to really commit back to full throttle until I reach the apex. So again, the tire barriers aren't going to be here, so I don't want to use that as a reference. But it's probably right about here where by feel it's like, okay, the car's set, it's in the corner, I can start to slowly roll back into the throttle. I do have to be mindful of the fact, again, this, even though it's not as sharp as the full circuit, the exit is still kind of cresting up over a hill, so the back end's going to get a little light late. But if you try and straighten the exit out, you shouldn't get a lot of wheel spin. You should be able to be back at full throttle. Now, the reason why in the chat I had said, hey, if you're going to go test the test tune, this is one of the places to do it. This is one of two sections of this track where I felt it was important to run the car here. Again, we talk about the car has got a little play in the back end, and it's fun. It's fun to get the car to step out, but there's the letting it step out a little bit to help you get the car through the corner and maintain speed. And then there's the back stepping out where all of a sudden you're trying to counter steer, get off the throttle. And so we want the fun oversteer, the fast oversteer. We don't necessarily want the uber slidey one, especially through here, because you're going to be turning in and you're going to put all the weight on the left side of the car, only then to have to then snap it back the other direction and get it on the right. So the gentler you can make that transition in, and not have so much weight on the left side, when it comes time to turn to go to the right, it's not going to try and jump all the way back to the other side and get the back unsettled. So I would say practice this is a key thing, a key set of corners to really get right and get smooth. And I'll explain why maybe in the race, but I can't do it. For me, you can't do it flat, and simply just backing out of the throttle for me isn't enough. I do have to do a brush brake or a cadence brake, and and I'll probably go back and look at the stream afterward to actually see what I'm doing. But it is just, I'm just barely, as I'm getting to the, again, flag stand here on the right, just as I'm getting to that, I'm just doing a quick little, I pay attention when I get here just to see how little I'm putting in here. It may even be barely enough where the game might even not even register it on the little red line there. But it is just a brush brake, very quick, just to get a little bit weight on the front to help the car turn in. And then at that point, if I've done it right and I've done it smoothly, I'm off the gas at this point. Maybe I'm giving a little bit just, once I do the initial turn in, to get a little weight back on the rear. But ideally, I want to try and get on this inside curving a little bit to try and straighten this chicane out. Again, the less steering I have to put in for this part to straighten out, the less then I have to worry about, the less, again, I'm trying to minimize the weight transfer. And the less weight transfer that's going on the back of the car, the less likely it's going to step out, the quicker I should be able to go through here. Case in point, I mean, if you were at Maple Valley, that chicane at the top of the hill before you go down, How many of you had problems with that where maybe you came at it and you had a lot of weight here, and then as you turned it, it snapped back the other side and you got into a little bit of a tank slapper? It's the same thing here. Thankfully, there's not as much little bumps. I think it's a little easier to manage. But again, the smoother and straighter you can take this, the faster you'll be able to go. And if you're trying to figure out how to pass somebody in front of you, if you're able to get good speed out of here and they don't, you might be able to set up and take a look on the inside here. It's not a really long straightaway, but again, let the car come out to the right side. Braking for me, if I can't see the braking line, I'm looking at the tire. I'm looking at the tires here. Let me turn on my controller and I can do that. I'm looking at where those tire bundles end. As I'm getting to the end of that, that's where I'm braking. Sometimes, the great thing about this particular turn, depending on the car and depending on the layout, sometimes you can use those tire barriers. Sometimes it's the gantry there in front of us. Sometimes it's the corner worker shack on the left side there. But for this car, for me with this car, it is the tire barriers on the right. That seems to be as that goes out of view. For me, that is the place to commit to the braking for this hairpin. Again, increasing radius, so it's sharper. The turn is a lot tighter than the exit. This one, I was doing it in second. Um, I, Second, I think works. It's almost a little too low in the rev range for second gear, but it's only there for a second. Then the revs will come up and the torque comes up, and then I think it's fine. So play with it on your own. Definitely, if you're in traffic, this is a first gear corner. If you're on your own and you think you're comfortable with it, second gear may work as well. Again, because you're going to be in a higher gear, the RPMs will be a little lower. You really need to be on your braking. This is also one of those cases where you're going to see me turn the wheel a lot more than I normally do. So again, get on the apex curbing. I might use a bit more than I just did there. Roll back in, out to the right side, up second gear. Again, the barriers won't be there on Thursday, so it's going to look completely different, but I'm going to try and arc the car in. Still full throttle, should be able to clip that curbing there. And the whole idea is, and I won't be perfect with it either. I do want to be about mid-track. I don't want to be all the way left here. I do want to be about mid-track, maybe a little bit more to the inside, setting up for this next corner. I will brake slightly, again, just to scrub a little speed, get a little weight at the front, help the car turn in. But I'm going to hug the inside here as best I can. Now, I think the designers, that at least in their mind, that extra little bit of curbing on the inside of the main curbing, I think is how they denote where they're saying the apex of the corner is. So I definitely want the car, at this curbing as I get here, but I'm still going to hold the inside as well as I can, balancing the throttle. I'm not going to be at full throttle at this point. To me, I'm not really thinking about getting to full throttle until I'm almost at the end of the curbing here. And I'm also looking for the yellow course condition light down the road, because that's going to kind of give me, again, it's almost kind of a blind exit because you're kind of cresting up over a hill to the top of a hill that you can't quite see where the road is until you're almost on top of it. Well, you are on top of the road at all times, but I'm going to look for the course condition light. That's going to help guide me out. I'm not going to point straight at it, but at least it gives me a reference point to know, where the edge of the curbing is, or where to unwind the wheel and let the car come out. So second gear, I think still second gear at this point. See, I forget my gearing. But braking for these last couple of corners. Braking for me for this next right-hander heading into the last 3 or 4 corners. I'm braking just as kind of about where this entry road is, or where the start of that green rain gutter is, just ahead of it. So it's right about here. Braking still second gear. Might be second gear. Maybe I'm third. But definitely this is second gear. The turn in, if I get it right, I am actually going to try to eat as much of this curbing as the game's going to let me. More often than not, I'm going to carry more speed in than I should, and I'll be a little off of it, or I'll just kiss it. But ultimately, try to eat as much curbing as I can. Try to hit that curbing as late as possible, late apex it, so that I can keep the car on the right side, setting up for the final chicane. Braking here is tricky. This is also another one because you're going to get back to full throttle for just a brief moment, and then you got to brake for this last chicane. The braking is about where the gantry is. It's easy for me to use the curbing on the right side there, the outside curbing, where that starts as the braking point. I think that's too late. You can use it, but you're going to be late for the initial entry to this corner. So I think it's going to be when the gantry goes out of view, or right where that the access road joins the circuit. I think that's probably, for me, it's going to be the most consistent braking point. Getting into this corner. Still second gear. I'm not going to downshift to first, but the critical thing for me as far as what my eyes are doing is as I'm getting this lined up, as soon as I get the reference of, okay, there's my braking point, I log it and I keep track of that peripherally, and I start looking for that inside curving for the final chicane. The sooner you can get your eyes on it and get into your rhythm as far as where you're braking, the easier that these next two corners are going to be to get onto the front stretch. And arguably, again, we're hitting to the most important part of the course since it leads onto the longest straight. So again, it's going to be braking, still second gear, looking for the apex. And I'm going to, again, more often than not, I'm going to go in here a little bit too quick and probably be off this curving. But if I do it right, I'm going to eat a lot of this inside curbing so that it keeps me a little bit wide, just left of center track to open up, to try and open up this last curbing. The other thing too, visually, it's going to look very different on Thursday because the white tire barriers won't be there. So you'll have a little bit better visibility to the chicane, but it's still the same thing. Hit this first one, eat the curbing there. Second gear, same thing here. Eat a lot of this curbing here. And then as soon as you get off that curbing, you should be able to get back to full throttle. Heading on the last corner, as you get past the curbing here on the left, you can start to arc the car in. This is one of those, if you're on full throttle, second gear up to third, you'll probably shift to third as you get about to the apex. This is another one where you're going to be full throttle, you're going to turn the car in. The weight transfer is going to be fine. It's right about when you get to the apex, the car's going to set, and you're going to feel it, and that's where, if you're on full throttle, the back tires are going to spin up a little bit, so you're going to feel the car, the back end's going to want to step out. So you got two ways, you got two things you can do. If you're in second gear, you're going to pop it to third. If you're running manual clutch, you're probably not going to interrupt the throttle enough to minimize it. You might need, if you feel the back end step out, you just might need to flick a little bit, or you just might need to just off the throttle and right back on. You're just trying to minimize, because what you don't want is, especially for this corner, if the back end, this is one where you really don't want the back end of the car stepping out under acceleration with any significant stepping out. Because once it starts to slide and you're having to really countersteer, get out of the throttle, you've now killed your straight line down to the next corner. And then you're just making you susceptible to get passed by someone behind you that may get this right. So as you get in, you're on full throttle, you get about to the apex, you'll start to feel the back end step out. Again, just be mindful of it. You just may need to just do a quick little flick. You just may be off the throttle. And when I say off the throttle, it's not even all the way out and back on. It's just out of it enough to take some of the torque out of the wheel so you can get right back on and keep the car set, keep the car nice and stable through the corner. You'll see me do stuff like, the quick little flicks as I exit the corner, but then you get back on the front straight, and I think third gear, then you'll be up to fourth third, fourth by start finish line. But that's a lap of Catalunya, Catalunya National. So that's a track walk. So all that's left now is, let's see how this car races. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the test drive. Now, based on Matt's calculations, we are going to be running 25 laps here at Catalunya National. Lap times is just shy of a minute and a half. So yeah, it should be a good race again. The other thing to keep in mind too is, I'm talking about stuff that I'll be talking about during the race. So let's not talk about it now. Let's talk about it during the race. So again, still playing around with what AI I want to race against. I think starting up front, I'm still going to have the same division this Falcon's in. Oh wait, that's Bucket Me. Bucket One. I'm still going to have historic road racing. So that's the division this Falcon sits in. Again, unfortunately, Drivatar is even on unbeatable with with the limitations on their aggression turned off. Are still slower than most of us will be racing. Bucket Two, for kicks and giggles. Oh no, I still have Vintage GT racing in Bucket Two, so those guys should be PI. They should be running about what I run again, but those cars will be running much faster in a straight line and slower in the corners. But then I decided, you know, actually at the Watkins Glen race, there's a couple of the cars in the Fast and Furious division that provided some decent racing. So I'm going to bring it back. We'll see what happens, but it's going to be more of an even split between these three classes, 8, and then 7 here. Then I make the 24th car. So we'll see how it works out. Again, Fast and Furious. Who knows? We could have the 2,000 horsepower Plymouth. We could have the slow, uh, I forget what it was from the last film with they were down in Cuba. So it's going to be an interesting mix there. We'll see what they come up with. Okay, so driver difficulty is unbeatable. Limit driver aggression is on. Driver tire designs on, but we don't see anything anyway. Okay, let's go ahead and accept that. And start. So I'm starting a little. I'm not starting quite as far back as I will on Thursday, but again, it's just trying to. Again, as instructional as I want this to be, I want some entertainment value. Plus, this is about the only time I will do serious practice to try and sort this car out. All right, so we are waiting another 30 seconds here. Who do we have behind me? All right, it looks like we have. Okay. I don't know. Don't know. It might be the. Is that an NSX that's behind the Jag? I was hoping for the BRZ because that BRZ actually at Watkins made for some good racing. Could outrun me on the straights, but it was slow enough in the corners that I could catch it, but then I could actually have a decent race with it. But let's get started. Oh, and again, these mock races, it is, again, for me, it's about practicing with traffic. And there is questionable racecraft, and I'm not talking about the drive tires with that. So you'll see me do some good things, but you'll see me do some bad things as well, which is why we practice. Okay. A little bit late there. Up the hill, he's off the throttle. Again, use a little bit of the outside curbing. It's, again, this car's, it's a little too quick. Catalunya's curbing is thankfully pretty forgiving. That was a little too much. Yeah, and the car's gonna, if you get in that chicane a little bit of speed, the car is gonna push a little bit. Yeah, so you don't want that. That's a little too much excess, rear stepping out. So let's see, we'll be 120, 106, 7, 8, 9, 100, just touching 131 there. So let's see if I get that last turn right this lap. Let's see what the speed is when I have to get to braking. Sorry, just checking it. It's like, oh, I hope my mic is on. I saw the light. Oh, a little bit of tank slapper. See, I can't talk and drive at the same time. Okay, so you can see I'm a little bit different than the racing line. I'm turning a little bit earlier than what the line suggests. That's a little bit better. That was still pretty close. All right, let's see if we get this right this time. Push, 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 push. That's the first time I've had that happen. Yeah, I gotta work on that. 25.9. That's a little bit early on the turn in. I had to back out a little bit more than I wanted to. Yeah, even there, the entry, the back end of the car on entry is going to step out a little bit. Or it's going to want to. You're going to feel it. But the idea is you don't want it stepping out too much. The better control you have over the back of this car, the faster you're going to go. Oh, that was slow through there and cut the curbing. That's a little better. Maybe get a little bit of a draft. So the other thing about this car is won't be evident here just because of the different classes, but this car does have a little bit of draft. So as you're trying to figure out how to get by somebody, if you know that you're faster out of the last chicane heading into the last turn, you might not want, it's not a significant like DRS level draft, but oh wow, what are you doing? But it's just maybe pacing yourself or giving yourself enough space that you can get a little bit of the run just on your own coming out of the corner. So that, you know, you can carry that momentum down, and then the draft can then give you that little bit extra to where you might be able to then, you know, stick a pass into turn one. But for me, it's like those are the places I'm going to be looking to pass. Like I probably won't try to pass people through here, but if I can set them up like better than that. He's still there. He's probably going to have, no, I'm not running him. Okay. So like keep passing places. Obviously setting up for turn one is a great place, but you're going to plan that pass out all the way back to the chicane and just trying to gauge like how much speed can you carry out, how much space should you leave, you know, to the guy in front of you, so that you can, you know, maximize your advantage and then use the draft to help set up the pass. Again, what is said through here, the exit of here, you get it right and you get a good run out, you might be able to take a look down here. So this is another place I would look for passes, but it's more of a pass of opportunity if, you know, if the car in front of me gets that chicane completely wrong and loses momentum. The other place I will look for passes, I will not try and pass somebody going into this final chicane, but if they get it really wrong and they're wide on exit, if I can, you know, cut the exit and set up an inside and maybe beat them to the final corner, that might be a possibility. Or who knows, maybe they go defensive and I, you know, sweep around the outside. If not, then can I set up the pass going into the first turn here? So those to me are the key areas where I would be looking to make passes. As far as like, I'm going to try and set something up, but also just paying attention to what's going on in front of me. Ooh, that was nice. Well, didn't push it a little wide there. Didn't quite get the braking right. Yeah, so what I said about trying to keep it as far to the right, I'm totally not doing that. And that, yeah, I'm cutting the corner, but I'm carrying, heading down that right-hander before the final chicane. I'm carrying a little more momentum than I thought I would be. It's a little bit late. You can just see, a little bit of counter steer as I get out of the first turn hairpin. Come on. I'm trying to set up something here. Work with me. Okay, fine. I was actually going to see if I could set up a pass here, but no, AI did not want to cooperate. Yeah, so the last lap I carried a little bit more momentum through. That's a little bit more of what I'm trying to do. It doesn't always work. All right, that was a decent exit. Let's just see if I'm over 131 by the time I get to the brakes. Little bit. That was not the quickest way through there. The other thing I'm not sure about is, and I didn't notice much of a difference at the week 1 tracks. It's a little bit late there. Is this car it makes 348? I think it was 348 or was it 378? It makes a lot of low end torque down in that 3,000 to 4,000 RPM range, but at least in the race, I don't know. It's not like what we had with the what we noticed with the Dodge Daytona, where shifting at a certain point actually did give you a little bit of an acceleration advantage, keeping it in the torque range. This car, I was not noticing any significant difference. Between winding it out like I just did there, or shifting right above 5,000. There really wasn't a significant difference, as far as like, I can get down. It's a tenth quicker. I think keeping the back of the car under control and what little bit of draft you can get, it's probably going to do more for lap times than when you're shifting. And I don't think this is a track where fifth is really ever going to be used. It's just there's no straight long enough. Oh, it's late again, but we salvage it. Speaking of Dodge Daytonas, I didn't time it right. Almost. So I think what I'll do is I'll pit at the end of lap 13. Again, about the halfway point. So at least for me, like pit's going to open again. You know, we're kind of back to standard Thursday night race where, you know, the mandatory pit window opens at 15 minutes race time and closes at 25. So yeah, that will be about the halfway point. A little bit late. You know, I don't think I've practiced the pit entry here on the wheel with this car yet, but Catalunya, I think, is one of the easier ins and outs. That's a little bit late. Yeah, you can just see the back end wanted to step out a little bit, so just that little quick counter steer. 25.3. It's just, you just float the car into that chicane. I mean, if you pay attention to the steering, it's like you're barely having to steer the car in, and you do kind of have to let. I don't know how to describe it. It's like you're gonna barely turn in, but you're gonna feel the back end just ever so slightly, you know, kind of step out. Oh, I didn't need to do that, and I just blew the lap. Again, can't talk and drive at the same time. So I probably lost. I'm probably like 2/10 down. Not barely down, but still. All right. One more flyer to see if I can set a good, quick, clean lap, though. Here I talked about, like, I want to make these streams, you know, these mock races a little more entertaining in traffic, and I've really hardly had any. Yeah, the car slid a little bit more than I ideally wanted it to, but yeah, pushed a little bit. $125.4. There's still time out there. But we're going to box this lap, so we'll have to try and get it some other point. think that's a Shelby Daytona on my tail. Oh, all right. So there's. I didn't break it all for that one. You can see the back end just, you know, stepped out just that little bit more. I would say definitely, find what works best for you, but really you want to minimize the oversteer. All right, so pit in. I think it's still going to be second gear. So this is all the same here. It's just when you hit the exit, just keep it a little bit more to the right, and just know it's not going to catch you until you get past the pit commit line there. Okay, so we got up to 7. Guess I'm going to need to work on the AI again for next race. Have to see what I have to come up with something fun. All right, so pit exit out here. Again, one of the easier pit exits. Just keep it to the right side. And right kind of where pit lane ends. Hard to point out while I'm doing it live, but you'll notice where pit end kind of fully rejoins the circuit. The line on the right side straightens out. That's about where you want to brake. And then just keep it to the inside, and you're back on track. And again, just through that chicane, just floating the car in. Just being mindful of what the back is doing. I don't mind a little bit of slide, but I don't want a huge amount. And then I can use the throttle to help straighten the car back out. It's a little bit late. Yeah, I started to turn in and had to turn in a little bit more. That's when the back wanted to step out, and then you saw me do that. Too much curb. Oh, that was too early. That would be a big penalty. A little too much oversteer there. Too much curbing. That's going to ruin this lap too. Or at least the next lap. Oh, Apex early, pushing wide. So yeah, I'm not really committing back to full throttle until I've kind of crested that hump, getting, from the hairpin back onto the circuit. A little too much there. I'm just violating track limits left and right. A little too much speed there. Let's get it. Let's get a good lap in. Almost too late. And you notice that the later I get in the race, the more comfortable I'm getting on the outside curbs there. Yeah, the back was starting to step out, and it just, again, it's one of those, I felt that time, it's like, let's just off the throttle really quick just to help keep the back in check. Okay, 25.3. I think there's still time out there. But I'm not going to find it if I do that. But let's see if we can salvage this. That's a bit early. Being a little bit more aggressive. Rally fighter. Please go into the pits. Go into the pits. Please go in the pits. Go in the pits. Well, he's far enough ahead. I shouldn't get a draft at the end of this lap. Two, but there's another 10th out there. I just got preoccupied with the guy in front of me. Yeah, I'm taking the shot. You can kind of see there, and again, it's an extreme example, but, you know, since I could get through that chicane a little more efficiently, at least put me in a position where I could take a look. And we'll do this thing first. I'll leave a little room because he's going to outrun me down the front straight. Just a little bit. Brake a little bit earlier just so I'm not right on his back bumper. Again, I want to be close enough to capitalize on where I'm quicker and he's not, but I don't want to get caught up in any shenanigans. See if I can get him out of the... yeah, he's way slow. So, yeah, if he cornered just a little bit quicker. There we go. And I should be able to put enough of a gap through the next couple of corners where I don't have to worry about getting repassed or drafted on the front straight. Oh, hopefully, maybe this might be the last clean lap, and then we might have some traffic here for the last 2 or 3 laps. Nope, this one will not be quicker. Scratch that. That's a little surprising. I didn't think I had lost that much time, or I gained that much time. Where are you going? Where are you going? I'm going to take you on the outside. Big run. And again, unless you know, at least for me, if I can't see the person or see the other car in the mirrors, even if I'm cleared them, it's usually safe just to leave room just in case. Almost got on the brakes too late. And again, the other thing is, if you have to go defensive in turn 1, just know that it's a little bit more difficult to get the car slowed down on that narrow entry. A little too much sliding. And again, you can probably get away with a little bit of extra slide through that chicane and not be too much at risk, but you want to avoid getting into a big tank slapper through there. Bump and run. All right, 2 laps. Got some decent traffic in front of me finally. Yeah, a little breathe there so I can make sure I can get to the inside and kind of capitalize on that run up the hill. And we'll probably take a shot. Ooh, late. But, yep, I'll get him. Oh, man, look at that. Could pick up a lot of positions on the last lap. Slow traffic playing a factor. Oh, yeah, slower traffic playing a big factor. Excuse me. Up to 8th. The Mustang hurt me as much as it helped me. I'm going to go defensive on the Ferrari. Oh, wow, big move on the inside. Can you make it stick? Gonna fight you on the outside. I'll have the inside for the next corner. Oh, but he out accelerates me, but I'm gonna shut the door on him. That was a little aggressive on me, but then that's probably cost me 7th place. I don't think I'm gonna catch the Testarossa by the end of the race. But we'll try. We're a little shallow. Yeah, that would be a time penalty there, but nope, not gonna get him. Oh, at least the last 2 laps were exciting. 125.0. Then I might be able to get a 124 out of there at some point. But that is Catalunya National in the Ford Falcon XB. 25 laps might be a lap too long. I mean, if I finished in 37 minutes, take a lap, take a minute and a half off of that. So yeah, it might be a 24 lap race. We'll see how Matt adjusts it. But there it is. Again, it really, as I've harped on through here, it's really just as you practice, it's just managing the back of the car. If you can keep it nice and smooth, you can allow a little bit the back to step out. You just don't want excessive. At one corner or another on a lap is fine, but if you're doing that every single corner, where every corner is an adventure, it's gonna kill your time and allow people to catch you and pass you. But I'm going to take a short break and we'll come back and do Silverstone GP, which I think is probably I have to look at the list again. I think it's one of the longest tracks we have since it is the full GP circuit. So I hope you guys are having a great Saturday afternoon. See you in a bit and happy racing. And at some point, I will figure out how to have this all queued up and I can say happy racing and then just end the live stream, but I'm not that good. Low production value. So happy racing.